When you're ranking Christmas movies, I have to say, guys, I'm not going to be able to rank like every single Christmas movie ever made in existence. That's just so impossible. But I did try to get like, one of these. I try. It's another ooh foo foo. If you don't know what that is, it's like some sort of like a tournament bracket where you get to rank all of your some cool stuff on here. But anyways, I found one that has like some Christmas movies, and then they kind of what's it called? They do some repeats on this, so obviously that's not a good thing. So I'm gonna be replacing a couple of them with like other movies. So I guess I didn't need to tell you that there were repeats, but whatever. Anyways, I'm gonna be ranking Christmas movies and kind of giving my 2 cents on like why one is better than the other, or why this movie is really good to me, or why I think it's a Christmas movie that lasts, for it'll keep on going and going and going. So here we go. It's only of 16 movies. So anyways. All right, so the first one is Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer against the Santa Claus. And when I say Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, I mean like the kind of like the claymation style. Like it's a really that old of a style of a movie. And I have to say, I do like the style of it. I remember I watched the movie. I think I have the movie on like VHS. And I think that the movie is just it's good, but it's not. I don't particularly watch it anymore. You know what I mean? I think that good Christmas movies have to have like that rewatchability factor, where it's like every single Christmas you have to have it. You know what I mean? And I think that the movie is good for maybe kids who maybe like animation or cartoons and stuff. I think that has a easy enough story for them to follow and for them to understand it. But as in terms of like great Christmas movies, this one it's good, not great, if that makes sense. I mean, it's great, but I'm just trying to like, comparatively to the Santa Claus, I mean, what a fun concept, what a fun idea, where you accidentally run into Santa Claus, he dies right in front of you, and now you have to take over you basically take his job, you know what I mean? And now your whole life has changed, you know what I mean? And you didn't even intend to do it. And I also find it kind of funny that, just how circumstances play out and you become the new Santa Claus, So that's and I also just like the concept of like them calling it a clause. So it's like it's the Santa Claus. Once you put on the suit and you read the card and you act as Santa for the day, then you're Santa Claus, and it just becomes this whole thing. It becomes this whole system of rules and agreements and like what you have to do and what you should do. And I like the direction that they took. I like the story. I think it was really fun to see Tim Allen just be like this, it was really fun to see him be this father, this businessman, this person who didn't really care all that much about Christmas, to becoming really loving and caring. And by the end of it, you see him so joyous and full of love and life, and you kind of see that like he's made the best out of his new life. And I think that's really cool. So all that to say, I'm choosing the Santa Claus as for this first round. So yeah, the Santa Claus. The Nightmare Before Christmas versus Home Alone. Oh my gosh. For the sake of being like real about this, I'm just gonna do the first Home Alone. It does Home Alone 2 for like the picture. Home Alone 2 is great. I think the first one is like, I mean, they're both great, you know what I mean? And the Home Alone 2 kind of does it in a new location. I think that's fun, but I'm just going to do the first Home Alone movie because that one seems like the more original, the more classic Christmas story. So, Home Alone versus Nightmare Before Christmas. That's the cool thing about a movie about the Nightmare Before Christmas is the duality of making it Halloween themed, but him trying to take over Christmas as well. It's a good blending of the holidays. You know what I mean? It's like, how come we only get, how come we shouldn't be a part of the festivities? You know what I mean? I really enjoy the quote unquote question that they're trying to pass on. But overall, I think The Nightmare Before Christmas is more of my Halloween movie, and it's certainly a Christmas movie as well. But I don't know. I feel like maybe the Halloween theme is primarily in my mind, and then the Christmas effect or the Christmas is kind of an added secondary what's it called? Push? It's like a secondary choice, it's second place. And now Home Alone, I mean, what can I say about this that hasn't already been talked about? I mean, it's just a classic. I think everybody can kind of relate to Kevin or understand Kevin or want to be Kevin and just have that ingenuity, that creativity, that fun, that kind of feeling of like, okay, let me try to protect my home, protect myself, figure out how I can enjoy the Christmas season without my family. And the movie is about family. It's about like, what would you do if everybody you loved and cared about left you on Christmas? You know what I mean? How would you feel? What would you do? Is it 100% like right, or is it, it just really makes you appreciate the people in your life, And so, for that reason, I'm going to choose Home Alone over The Nightmare Before Christmas. But Nightmare Before Christmas, definitely a top-tier Christmas movie. I think the idea of like blending Halloween and Christmas together was a really great idea. And the reasons why they want to make Halloween a part of Christmas, you know what I mean? It's making Christmas a part of Halloween doesn't really, I mean, you can do it, but it makes it makes Halloween a little too kind, you know what I mean? It's too nice of a season. Whereas making Christmas more Halloween, that's a little bit more interesting, and I thought that they nailed that. I also think the animation is really just like, it really is so amazing, and it still holds up. It's still classic, in my opinion. It doesn't feel like, every time I watch it, I never think to myself like, oh man, it's really dated, you know what I mean? Obviously with technology now, they might be able to do maybe a better job of certain scenes or certain moments, but I certainly never think to myself like, oh, they could have done this better. I'm just like, I'm amazed that they were able to accomplish such a movie with, at the time that they made it and what they were trying to make, you know what I mean? So I really like that movie. Anyways, Home Alone takes the win. Okay, so now it is How the Grinch Stole Christmas versus The Holdovers. And this is one of those double repeats kind of a thing. So I replaced one of the repeated films with The Holdovers. And I watched The Holdovers recently, and I talked about it right here on this podcast. But comparatively to How the Grinch Stole Christmas, it's not comparable to How the Grinch Stole Christmas wins. I really like The Holdovers. I think as a Christmas movie, it's pretty kind. It's very sweet, and it's about people changing, you know what I mean? But How the Grinch Stole Christmas. That's just such a classic. And I'm talking about the live action version. So if you hear me say How the Grinch Stole Christmas, I'm not talking about the cartoon version. I'm talking about the live action version with Jim Carrey. Fantastic movie. Definitely a top tier Christmas movie. So How the Grinch Stole Christmas it is. Okay. The next movie is Miracle on 34th Street, and then Die Hard. You know the movie Die Hard? And I've talked about Die Hard on this channel as well. As a Christmas movie, I don't know, Die Hard, I mean, it is a Christmas movie. It's set during Christmas, but it doesn't give me that Christmas holiday joy. It gives me action and suspense, but it doesn't give me that same kind of loving feeling as Miracle on 34th Street. That one is such a classic. So I feel like I have to choose it. They're not giving me any other choice but to choose it. But, you know, I want to say that, like, Die Hard is okay. You know what I mean? I think for the time that it was made and what they were doing with it, I think it's pretty nice. It's pretty cool. But Miracle on 34th Street. Got to be that movie. So next is It's a Wonderful Life and Jack Frost. Now, I just talked about Jack Frost as well. As a Christmas movie, I like the animation of it. I think it's really cool. I like Michael Keaton. I think the kid does well. Like, I think the premise in itself about, like, you're never going to get back what you lose, so you have to appreciate what you have. You know what I mean? It's a very beautiful story. But so is It's a Wonderful Life. And at the end of the day, it's like, which one do I feel is more Christmassy? And Jack Frost is definitely a part of the holiday season. But I just feel like it could just be literally just set in the winter. You know what I mean? It doesn't necessarily revolve around Christmas. But It's a Wonderful Life, I think that's just such a fuzzy feeling kind of a movie. It's so nice. And, you know, it doesn't have like an animated snowman in it. So, I don't know. I think I have to go with It's a Wonderful Life. But Jack Frost, great movie. I really like that one. But It's a Wonderful Life it is. Next is Polar Express against A Christmas Carol. So, here's the thing. There are multiple Christmas carols, okay? And the one that they're displaying right here is the animated Jim Carrey one. I don't know if that's the one I prefer. I mean, it's definitely good. The Christmas Carol story is amazing. They do a great job with it, and you can kind of like, the story still follows through and through no matter what. But I remember the first time I watched it, this Christmas Carol, and I thought that was amazing. That was so good. But the animation of it, was kind of, it made for a bigger spectacle, but it didn't, all of that was just kind of like, well, it's still animated. You know what I mean? I think it's great animated, but compared to more live stuff like the Muppets Christmas Carol, right, where it's like the puppetry and Michael Caine, and it's like all kind of there, I felt like it had a lot more heart to it. So it's hard for me to kind of be like, which one out trumps the other. But as for right now, A Christmas Carol right here, right now, it's, I don't know, I just think that it's a great movie, and it has such a powerful theme behind it, and I think it works for works for you no matter how old or how young you are. You know what I mean? The themes are so powerful that it's like, even if you're a little kid, you're like, I don't want to be that old man who's grumpy and mean and only cares about money. And if you're an older kind of person, you're kind of like, I'm not that person. I don't want to be that person, and it's never too late to change. You know what I mean? So that's the cool thing. And now the Polar Express, that is such kid coded. I think that all kids who watch it are immediately entranced by it. They like it. They think it's fun. They think it's cool that kids get on a train and they go to see Santa and have fun together. Like, it's such an adventure road trip Christmas movie that I really enjoy. And I just feel like there's so many aspects of the movie that I enjoy, but does the story itself, the complete story of it, out trump A Christmas Carol? And I want to say no, but at the same time, I'm like, it's just for kids, you know? So do I go with A Christmas Carol or a Polar Express? And I don't. This is a good one. This is a really good choice. But I think for the kids, you know what I mean? Just for the kids, I'm going to go Polar Express on this one. But A Christmas Carol, definitely amazing, okay? Polar Express it is. Oh, look at this. They added the Muppet Christmas Carol. So Christmas Carol is still in here, guys. I'm going to count both the Muppet Christmas Carol and the Jim Carrey one. I'm just going to kind of mesh them together. I feel like they're both like the top tier versions of that story. And they're both up against A Charlie Brown Christmas. Now, I got to be honest. I kind of watched this, like this Charlie Brown special. I'm not going to say that it's like my favorite thing to watch, but I definitely understand the allure behind it. You know what I mean? I definitely understand why it is so popular, you know, especially at the time for the animation and the kids, right? It's just like something people grew up watching and they really enjoyed it. So, and it works for all ages, but I think I'm going to have to go with the Muppet Christmas Carol. That movie is beautifully Christmas, and you really love that movie. You enjoy the effort that people put into making the puppets work and the staging and the kind of like the way that they tell the story, and now everybody comes together. I think is really beautiful. So the Muppet Christmas Carol. All right, so next we have Elf versus A Christmas Story. I am going to be real here. A Christmas Story is not as funny as Elf, but A Christmas Story is kind of... It does have funny moments in it. I won't deny that, but it's just that, like, how do you put one over the other? You know what I mean? It feels like A Christmas Story is just about a kid who wants I think it's like an airsoft gun or a BB gun or whatever, and the other one is about like an elf who, you know, loves Christmas and wants to find Santa and get back to being an elf, right? Like, I just think that the idea of Will Ferrell being in New York City pretending to be this tall elf and just having fun improv and kind of doing all kinds of crazy stuff like that, I think it's really fun and genius, and they definitely came up with a great Christmas movie in that regard. But how do you... Well, I think A Christmas Story would be considered more classical style of Christmas storytelling, and Elf would be more modern, improvisational, and kind of like comedic and non-traditional. You know what I mean? It's so much different from each other that it's kind of hard to be like, well, they're both Christmas based, but how do you why would you really judge it differently? But in the end, I think Elf is a better movie in my opinion. I don't know, A Christmas Story just doesn't hit as much as Elf, so I'm gonna go with Elf. Okay, next we have, and so we're now on a new cycle. That's the end of the first round. This is round 2, I think. Now we have Miracle on 34th Street against How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Again, it's kind of like modern versus classical, right? How do you beat a classic with a modern take? And I think it's just because of the way that it's stylistically done. The way How the Grinch Stole Christmas, the live action version is made and produced and acted, the stage design, the makeup, the everything about it just kind of blended together so perfectly that it has to take over 34th Street and become a more of a modern classic. You know what I mean? In a very fun and universal way. And the same thing goes for Miracle on 34th Street. I know that the first time I watched How the Grinch Stole Christmas, I never stopped watching it every Christmas. Whereas Miracle on 34th Street kind of took a bit of a backseat, I won't lie. And it's still a great Christmas movie. It's just, How the Grinch Stole Christmas is just my personal favorite. So overall, How the Grinch Stole Christmas is better in my opinion. So we're going with that. How the Grinch Stole Christmas, baby. Okay, Polar Express versus Elf. This is a good one because it's like animation versus live action, right? And I definitely think because it's animated, they do a lot more visually cool things, right? Like when the kids are like jumping out of that big bag with like all of the presents and stuff, they probably could have done it live action, but doing it anime doesn't put any of the kids at risk. It doesn't, hurt anybody, and everybody kind of gets, you can kind of just be like, oh yeah, he jumps out of there and everything's fine. Whereas with Elf, it's more, obviously it's real and that's the point of it, but you kind of get this sense of like taken out of it a little bit. Like sometimes when I watch it, I'm just like, oh, Will Ferrell is so good. I'm not supposed to be thinking of Will Ferrell. I'm supposed to be thinking of, his character, right? And then I kind of get taken out of it a little bit because I'm just like, oh, Will Ferrell did an improv there, or he thought about this, or he acted like that, you know what I mean? And so for that reason, I think I get more immersed into Polar Express than I do Elf for that reason. But this is a good one. This is a good neck and neck. But I think I'm going to choose Polar Express if I'm being honest. Polar Express, I think, is a movie that I watch a lot more than Elf. I like Elf, but I think I'm going to go Polar Express. Polar Express it is. Might be a bit controversial, but, Oh, man. This is a tough one. The Muppet Christmas Carol versus The Santa Claus. Okay. Oh, my goodness. This is such a tough one because, like I said, Christmas Carol has such a great look of it, but what I said with How the Grinch Stole Christmas, and that like how modern takes of stuff have to be so well produced, well acted, like they have to check all of the boxes in order to really get you invested into it, and they did just exactly that. I feel like they did a beautiful job of designing the Santa suit, the reindeer, the props and accessories, the storytelling. Like, I think it all kind of melded together quite perfectly to make this Santa movie believable. I remember when I first watched it, I thought I was immediately like, oh, that's cool. That's how he becomes Santa. It was like a Santa origin story. You know what I mean? And I enjoyed that kind of idea that anybody could become Santa Claus. You know, anybody could randomly, just by accident, you know, kill Santa Claus and then be the new Santa Claus. And I thought that was kind of fun. I thought that was a neat idea. And then the Muppet Christmas Carol, I guess it's kind of the same idea applies, right? Anybody could become Ebenezer Scrooge. Anybody could realistically harden their heart and never really love again. But which one is better? You know what I mean? Is it because both characters in the movie go through a huge change, and by the end of it, they have accepted their new life and they've made a turn for the better. You know what I mean? So, which one triumphs the other? This is a really tough one. This is a really good choice between these two. Damn. I think. How can I put it? The Santa Claus has like two more movies after it, and it kind of has like this extended story that, comparatively to the Christmas Carol, they kind of just do it like a one-off, and it still holds up. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know which one kind of does it better or which one is better. I just want to say that the Muppet Christmas Carol or the Santa Claus. Ooh. I think the Christmas Carol can be told stylistically in numerous ways. You know what I mean? You can still tell that story today. Whereas the Santa Claus, I haven't seen another sort of Santa Claus origin story like the one that Tim Allen did, or the way that they produced it. You know what I mean? It has that old school nostalgic feel to it that I enjoy. But Muppet Christmas Carol is so. I mean, that is like such a great staple for Christmas. But I don't know. I guess because there's so many varieties of, you could watch the Christmas Carol, that I feel like it kind of feels a little bit lower, whereas a Santa origin story, I can't name another one. I can't name another one where a man becomes Santa Claus. You know what I'm saying? So, for that reason, I'm going to choose the Santa Claus. Sorry to the Muppet Christmas Carol. Definitely a top tier movie. Definitely makes it up there, but the Santa Claus, I think, is really great. All right, that took a little longer. Home Alone versus It's a Wonderful Life. I'll make it short and sweet here. It's definitely Home Alone. I mean, I like It's a Wonderful Life, but it's got to be Home Alone. So, easy peasy with that one. Polar Express versus the Santa Claus. For all of the right reasons, I just think I like the Santa Claus more than the Polar Express. I think the live action aspect of it makes it a lot more fun. Whereas the animation of Polar Express is good, but it's not. Like, if they made a live action Polar Express, that would be cool. Like, I think that's like a live action version that would definitely be amazing. Although the kid aspect would probably be a hassle, you know what I mean, working with all of them. But I mean, they kind of did it with like the Harry Potter franchise, you know, and it's not impossible. But anyways, I don't know. I just, again, it's different animating environment as opposed to recording and creating a space that feels like Christmas. Does that make sense? Like they spend the majority of their time on the train, whereas in the Santa Claus, you see Santa's workshop, the clothing of the suit, the sleigh, him and his son. We get to see him in modern life. We get to see him get fat and grow a beard. We get to see him go through all of these changes, and it's really funny. And so for those reasons, I'm going with the Santa Claus over Polar Express. All right, this is a battle amongst battles. This one, I'm surprised these two didn't make it to the end, but here we are. How the Grinch Stole Christmas versus Home Alone. These are at each other's throats. They are literally, when you talk about like fights, when you talk about damage being done to one another, these two are literally the best Christmas movies to this day, and probably for a long, long time to come. So at the end of the day, it really comes down to preference. You know what I mean? Do you relate more to the little kid getting abandoned and dealing with loneliness? You know what I mean? And dealing with how to treat your family. You know what I mean? Do you enjoy the physical pain of it? You know what I mean? The thievery, the kind of stuff like that. You know what I mean? Or do you prefer How the Grinch Stole Christmas, right? Which is a completely different way of doing things. It's a fictional spot. It has great narration. It tells a really good story. In my personal opinion, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, I think, is the better Christmas story. We literally see a guy with a shrunken heart grow and become more loving and more caring, and I don't know. I enjoy the bit where he steals all of the presents and then he brings them back, and then everybody just kind of still enjoying the holiday season. You know what I mean? It's not about the presents and all that. So, I just think it's the Christmas movie for me. So, sorry, Home Alone. It's got to be How the Grinch Stole Christmas. That is the Christmas movie to me. And then, final top two, it's the Santa Claus versus How the Grinch Stole Christmas. What an amazing tier list. You know what I mean? What can I say about these two movies? That I haven't already said already. They capture Christmas so perfectly well. They tell the story of Santa Claus. They tell the story of the Grinch and how he comes to become a part of Christmas, accepts a new life. And both of their styles are so fun. One is like telling a very reality-based, like if somebody were to really become Santa Claus, and then the other one is a fictional world with who's and a green man who lives up in a mountaintop. You know what I mean? It's all kinds of fun like that. And I'm going to have to pick How the Grinch Stole Christmas over the Santa Claus. So there you have it, folks. How the Grinch Stole Christmas is out on top. But if you have another movie that you think is better that didn't make the list, I'd be interested to know. But at the end of it all, I think How the Grinch Stole Christmas is on top, and I never go a Christmas without watching it. So, whereas Home Alone, there are other Home Alone movies too, but it's just that like How the Grinch Stole Christmas is so special to me, So, anyways, thank you guys so much for listening. I'll talk to you guys all next time. Thank you.